I got diagnosed with lymphoma in September last year, but I'd been feeling ill for about 10 months before that. I remember it was Christmas time. It started off with like flus, coughs, fevers here and there. And so I booked an appointment with the GP, went in, and they told me, oh, yeah, looks like ringworm. Here's some cream for it. Literally within a week, it spread everywhere. It was like all over my all over my neck and my chest. And it looked like you could not see clear skin anywhere.
Hello, and welcome to the Thrive Against Cancer podcast, where we give a voice to the cancer community. My name is Toby Freeman, founder and CEO of the Robin Cancer Trust, cancer advocate, and your host. Every episode, we will be hosting open and honest conversations with people affected by cancer, whether personally, as a family member, clinician, or charities and organisations. We will be talking to the cancer community about the cancer community and all the things that are important to you. Our guest today is a photographer and visual artist working in arts education. Her world was turned upside down when she went from shooting photos to the next day being in hospital waiting for test after test after test, where she was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. Our guest today is Alia Romagnoli. Alia, thank you so much for being here with us.
Of course, thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure.
Really, really appreciate you being here. And I can see some beautiful artwork in the background and a canvas as well for those watching or listening. So, practice what you preach. And yeah, just so grateful you're here. Basically, I'd like to hand over to you. It's your story. Tell us at the beginning, because I know you've been through so much and we want to try and cover it all.
Yeah, so it's been a crazy year to say the least. I got diagnosed with lymphoma in September last year. And but I'd been feeling ill for about 10 months before that. I remember it was Christmas time, literally, I think it was 2023. Um yeah, December time, and I caught a really, really bad flu that lasted like r- really intensely for a couple of weeks, and then it didn't really go away for about a month. And from I'd say January up until September, I just kept falling ill with different things. So it started off with like flus, coughs, fevers here and there. And then in May, I was on holiday in Cornwall, and I noticed sort of like a weird spot on my arm, and it looked a little like ringworm. And I'd never had that before. And so I booked an appointment with the GP, went in, and they told me, oh, yeah, looks like ringworm. Here's some cream for it. Um, and literally within a week, it spread everywhere. It was like all over my neck and my chest. And it looked like you could not see clear skin anywhere. It was just like these little red dots. Went back in, was really concerned, and then they said, "Oh, it's not ringworm. You'd been misdiagnosed. It's something called pityriasis rosea." Which is like quite harmless. It's a skin rash that you usually get after like a viral infection. So I thought, oh, I was ill in, December, Jan. It was probably quite an intense viral infection. That's probably what it is. And they said it's going to take a few months to clear up. Um, May onwards, I'd say, yeah, May, June, July got worse and worse and worse, spread to my stomach, my legs, my like just like everywhere. Less intense than my neck and chest area, but still I couldn't really wear sleeveless things. I was really self-conscious about wearing shorts. Um, and on top of that, I started to get like spots around my ankles, my knuckles, and I thought, okay, on top of this skin and rash, I have bed bugs. Like I'm convinced I have bed bugs because it looked like there was sort of it was in a line, and it sort of had that pattern. Um, was looking into replacing my mattress, everything. But what was really weird was my partner didn't have any
Mm.
kind of symptoms, any bites, nothing. Um, and then um yes, starting in May, started also getting like sort of chest pain. I thought it was muscular. I was burnt out. I was shooting, lifting a lot of heavy things, like in the studio a lot, like teaching. So we would do a lot of like teaching in the studio, that sort of thing. So I just thought I pulled something, and it went away after a few days. And then I was just feeling it's weird because a lot of my symptoms were very, very small. Like they didn't feel like very scary. They didn't feel like it was something particularly wrong. It was just here and there, and I was going to the doctor. I'd say initially once a month, so May, June, maybe once a month, and then July, August, every couple of weeks for different issues. Because you know how at the doctor they have one issue, one appointment.
Yeah.
And I felt really frustrated because I'd go into an appointment and I wouldn't be given I felt like I wouldn't be given the time to sort of describe every single thing that was happening to me because they were all looked at as separate issues. Um, and then I was feeling extremely tired. I thought it was just like, I was burnt out. I wasn't, I was just like, as you do fatigue, like as you usually are fatigued. And so I was supposed to go on holiday in August to Greece. And just before I went to the doctor saying, "Oh, I'm tired. I have this rash. It's not really gotten better, but this is what it's been diagnosed as." They said it should clear up on its own. And I requested a blood test. And did the blood test, didn't think anything of it. Got a message while I was away in Greece, literally like, "We need you to come in immediately and have you're severely anemic, like severely." I don't remember my level, so I don't even say a random number. But I should have literally been having a blood
Oh
transfusion. It
my
was
gosh.
extremely low. I could have passed out at any point. I was severely anemic, just like I should have been having a blood transfusion, that sort of level. And the flight from back to London from Greece, we went to Kos, was just horrific. I had a high fever. I couldn't really stand properly. I was sort of slumped over at the boarding gate, while my partner was like going around trying to find some food for us. Slept the whole way through the flight, couldn't remember anything. The next morning, booked in a blood test, went in, and did a full iron profile, and my white blood cell counts were really high, my platelets were severely low, and so there was obviously something extremely wrong. Um,
I mean, that is so scary, isn't it? Because you're on holiday. Did you feel terrible on holiday, or were you just
I did. I was so I fell ill on holiday. I thought I ate something weird. Like I had a sandwich, was really nauseous the rest of the day. Felt really weird for quite a few days, lost my appetite, but was eating because I was on holiday and I thought I want to make the most of it. And then um in the evenings when we'd walk, into the town to get dinner and stuff, that walk was only like 20 minutes, half an hour. That would knacker me out. I would not be looking forward to that. I was really struggling, which was not normal because I spent the whole summer going on, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 hour hikes with my hiking group, shooting them as well. Like I was extremely active. Um, and I was just wondering why I was feeling so tired all the time. But that was sort of when I really felt absolutely horrific. But I didn't think anything was severely wrong. I just thought I was anemic. And because I had been anemic like in the past, I knew that, with anemia comes fatigue, and a lot of the time that's quite normal. So even when my levels came back so low, I was like, oh, I don't know how, I just take some iron tablets that have been prescribed and I'll be fine in a few weeks. And that's sort of it. Um, But the doctor that I saw when I came back was amazing. And she really, really gave me the time. And it was the longest doctor's appointment I've ever had. It was 45 minutes, and she asked me a whole bunch of questions. That's long
Yeah.
compared to the 10 minutes you're allocated, you know. She asked me a lot of questions, my breathing, how I was feeling. Like looked at my rashes, sort of heard my breathing with a stethoscope, everything. And she said, uh, I think I know, which direction to send you in. I think you need a chest X-ray. So let's wait for your chest X-ray, see what happens. Um, Went in for my chest X-ray, and they said everything's fine. We At first they thought I had TB, like tuberculosis, but I had the vaccine,
Yeah.
so it was not possible. Or they said I could have sarcoidosis, but they didn't mention lymphoma at all. And so after the x-ray, they said, okay, you need to get a CT scan because we see something, but we don't think it's tuberculosis. We don't think it's anything to worry about, which is what the technician told me, which was a false alarm. It wasn't true. It was very much something to
Yeah.
worry about. Um, and they said, okay, wait for your date for the CT scan. Waited, didn't hear anything back for a few days. They said, chase radiology. Chase radiology. Radiology gave me a date for a month later. I said, sorry, I can't wait for a month, because in that time I started to feel it changed so quickly, because I suddenly started to not be able to breathe. I had difficulty walking up the stairs. I was having a lot of chest pain, and then I felt like something was wrong,
Yeah.
you know?
So it's almost like those, because previously your symptoms have been so isolated in that, okay, it's one thing, but I can compartmentalize that and I can go to the doctors about that. But it feels like that's crescendoing at this point where they're all
Yeah.
stacking up on top of each other.
Yeah, it felt like I suddenly, like it was like a mudslide
Mm.
suddenly. You know what I mean? You're slowly getting up there, and then suddenly, like it was every single thing seemed to hit me. And I was looking into trying to get a CT scan privately, because I that that was when I was so worried,
Yeah.
especially because of my white blood cell count, my platelets. I was like, something's wrong. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why they're giving me an appointment a month away. Uh, and so I called my GP up again. And this is like, bear in mind, this is like probably the 20th time in the 6 months, probably more in the 6 months that I'd been going. And the doctor I had that morning was amazing. He said he called up Esther at the hospital and said, we need to get this person in either this afternoon
Wow.
or tomorrow morning. Um, she might have TB or sarcoidosis, or it potentially might be lymphoma. And that was sort of the first time I was hearing about this. Um, and I think he sort of said lymphoma. For me, from my perspective, I thought he said, "Oh, she might have lymphoma to speed up the
Mm.
process," not thinking I had it, but being worried about my chest pain. And he really put his foot down, and I really think that was what got me diagnosed, because he said, look, they're overbooked, but if you show up an hour early tomorrow morning, they might be able to squeeze you in because they've double booked you. Went there, went to SDEC, so like same day emergency services. Next morning, and was there for 7 hours all day, basically got my CT scan done, had to do two, because they needed to double check. Got to like tons of blood tests, basically every single thing under the sun, urine test, like, everything you can think of, another X-ray. And that was when I got told my lymph nodes are enlarged and I would potentially need a biopsy. And got home at 6 o'clock. Got a call from the doctor at 6:30, like the surgeon at 6:30, saying, "Can you come in tomorrow for a biopsy?"
Wow.
So I had no time to mentally prepare that this was happening to me, or even like the diagnosis or
Yeah.
nothing. Went in the next day. Have never been like, have never had any kind of anesthesia like that. Have never really been on an operating table at all. So it was really terrifying. Had my biopsy, watched the screen while they were doing it.
Wow.
Yeah, watch them do, because you have like the ultrasound screen, and I don't know what it was. I just wanted to know what was going on.
Where were they
Um,
biopsying? Just out of interest, what?
so it was so she felt so the doctor at STEC felt that I had enlarged lymph nodes sort of here, like by my collarbone. She said potentially I had one in my chest, and that they would have to do sort of the internal biopsy where you go through the mouth.
Okay.
But they did a second CT scan to make sure that there wasn't, basically they wanted a less invasive
Yeah.
way of doing a biopsy, and they found that my lymph node was enlarged on my right hand side. So they said, okay, we can do an external one. So they just did on that side. They took 7 samples. So watch him do, and I was asking him questions during. I was like, "Oh, how many are you taking?" That sort of thing, and then
Wow.
I
So you're
could
just
hear him
watching
go,
this on a big
"Oh, that's a
screen?
good sample. That's not a good." Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah. I think it's because I want to know what's going on with my body. You know what I mean? And I'm definitely a control freak. I just need to know. Like, I need to see what's going on. I just can't take the information. I sort of need the proof that, okay, this is what it looks like.
Well, and also the last like 24 hours have been completely out of your control, right? You've just been rushed into hospital, had all these things done to you. I think I could totally understand wanting some element of control while someone's prodding me with a biopsy.
Exactly. It was the only thing that I had any control over, like you said. And so I remember asking him, "Oh, why do you say that was a good sample and that wasn't a good sample?" And he sort of held up the little like tube, like the sort of the bottle, and like showed me my biopsy samples and how like some of the ones that were stringy weren't as clean as the ones that like came as like full pieces. So I was like, so I turned to him and I said, like, what does this look like? Because I've been told that it's either TB, sarcoidosis, or potentially lymphoma. And he said, I don't want to lie to you, but it looks like lymphoma. So I just want to mentally prepare you. And that was like when I started mentally preparing that was what it was going to be. A week went by, and I went in the next week and got told that yes, it's stage 2 Hodgkin's lymphoma. The biopsy came back as like classical Hodgkin's lymphoma. And yeah, that was how I got diagnosed, and things after that sort of happened very quickly. Honestly, from the time I got diagnosed in September, because I only started chemo in October, I deteriorated very quickly. Couldn't feel it when I had the biopsy. Um, but but like a few weeks later, became massive. Like it sort of grew in that time really quickly. Um, I started getting more chest pain, couldn't really move, couldn't stand for long periods of time. I really started to feel very severely ill, and I knew that, okay, this is not good. And what they found from the CT after that, obviously, I had to do a PET scan, see what stage it was at.
Yeah.
And that was when they told me that it was quite a bulky tumor. So it was stage 2 because it was in 2 places in my body, my neck and my chest, but it was extremely bulky, and it was sort of around the top of my heart, all the way up to the back of my neck. And I had a look at my PET scan, and it was just black, completely black up until the top of my heart, like these like black little dots, and they were massive. Um, and I just couldn't believe it, because it's like I thought I was well.
Yeah.
And I'm like I'm also quite young. Like I'm in my late 20s. I just did not think that something like that would happen to me. Or I would get, I don't know, it can happen to anyone. That's the thing. But because I was so fit, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I eat really healthily, I cook most of my meals. Like I live a relatively healthy life. I've always been very active as well, and my job also requires
Mm.
me to have a certain level of fitness. So that was just a complete shock out of the blue. And after the PET scan, they I was told I needed to do something called a BA-COPDAC, which is an escalated type of chemotherapy.
Okay.
A lot of the time, for people who have Hodgkin's lymphoma, a lot of patients do something called ABVD, which is like a different kind of chemo, but BA-COPDAC, I guess, would be the more intensive form of it. So that what BA-COPDAC looks, I had to wait for a month to get my chemo date. So that was
It's a lot
already
of months.
worrying enough, stressful enough. Like it was not a fun way, and I was deteriorating in those weeks as well, and I was panicking, thinking I don't want this to get any worse than it
Yeah.
already is. Um, but what I learned from the whole process of being diagnosed, and you know and even getting my first chemo date, and just everything from the tests to the scans to seeing the GP, and like being taken seriously, especially because I wasn't prescribed a blood test for months.
Mm.
You know what I mean? From May to September, I wasn't prescribed a single blood test in the time that had been going in regularly, complaining about different ailments here and there,
Yeah.
you know? And what I really had to do throughout the entire process, which a lot of cancer patients have to do, unfortunately, with the system that is set up, is advocate for yourself. And just like the only person looking out for you is you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you need to make sure that, like, what I found, I needed to make sure I was calling radiology, I was calling my GP, I was following up on tests, I was putting my foot down and saying, I can't wait for these things, because this is like urgent and serious, and
Yeah.
I'm not feeling well, and having to constantly advocate for myself. Honestly, even throughout chemo, you know what I mean, was that you can't be lax in this process. And and that was something that I told a lot of people, especially online, who were
Mm.
contacting me and asking me, how I got diagnosed, that I had to push and push and push, and that's the only way, and to because not everyone's going to take you seriously, and that's how I came up to my diagnosis.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
Well, you said earlier, you said you're a bit of a control freak, and I was thinking there, well, that's a positive in this regard. Because you've taken control of your own health there, haven't you? And you've taken control of the situation where you're in, and chasing your oncologist, your radiologist, all of that is in a positive way taking control. It's not the way the system should work. I think we can all agree, but it's the system that you were certainly in. So yeah, you did a fantastic
yeah,
job of advocate. I've got this big note here on my pad saying self advocacy. It's so important. So thank you for saying that, because I think that's a really important message,
exactly. Yeah, I feel like
especially.
I'm waffling on. I don't know if
No, not at all. Hey, it's your podcast. I'm just here to listen and learn. But this is something we hear, and we do hear this often with younger women as well. We've had, multiple guests on talking similarly about how they felt that they were more disregarded just because symptoms and signs could be placed in other boxes, and that takes a longer time to get to diagnosis. So it's something we all need to learn from and advocate for.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you must hear this a lot from sort of the younger generation of cancer patients, but it's extremely lonely. Yeah, the journey is extremely lonely, especially in person, because throughout treatment, and even now in remission, and like sort of taking up some of the like remission like the recovery
Mm.
programs that the NHS offers. Oftentimes I'm the youngest in the room by 40, 50 years, it's been really rare to find people who are either like in their 20s or 30s, experiencing sort of something similar other than online,
Yeah.
which is crazy, because it's like, um for me, I found being online really helpful sometimes, and then sometimes not so much, but um it it was far better than anything in person because it was so unbelievably isolating. Especially treatment because yeah, I mean, from October up until March this year, it's like I had no life. It was just like, you know, hospital appointment after chemo, after A&E visit, after, you know what I mean? It was just
Yeah.
consistent with very little relief or um fun or anything really positive. So yeah.
And you did absolutely go through it. 12 rounds of chemo is
Yeah.
what I've got written here, which is that's a lot of chemotherapy and a lot of side effects. Do you want to dive into that from the chemo you went through, what happened? And obviously, you've talked about feelings of isolation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I said, I started off with beer copter. So I did 2 cycles of that. So that is 4 rounds per cycle, so 8 in total. And it's like you're basically living at the hospital with that one. So you start off, so can't remember the names of all of the drugs,
Oh,
but
yeah.
each each drug starts with the letter, so BEA copter. Um, and so they sort of split it up over a certain number of days. So I did about 4 to 5 hour transfusions per day. Started off with day 1, 2, 3. And that's I think about 2 drugs every day of that. Like sat in the chair all day. Absolutely awful. Because the first day was always the worst because of the red devil. And that's the one that makes you feel extremely ill, throw up. uh, and then you have a break for a few days, and then you have chemo on day 4, which is I think it was so long ago, so I think it was like 3 or 4 days after the 3 days that you've done. So that's sort of the cycle. And then you have a week after that, and then you start again. Um,
It's not much time to recover, is it, in between all that?
No, not at all, not at all. And in between, I was so the first day was always horrific. Every single time I had the red devil, I was extremely ill, throwing up multiple times. The first ever time I had it, I think I threw up like 10 times throughout the night, couldn't keep a single thing down. So, um made the mistake of eating something in the morning, went in for chemo, was there all day. As soon as I finished, got home, was throwing up, couldn't keep water down, couldn't keep anything down, and then started to feel better sort of the next day, but it was still nauseous. My treatment throughout was just like nausea central. Like I could not keep, I was not hungry, couldn't really eat very much. My taste buds started to change, so everything tasted metallic and gross. I couldn't drink water. So I was mostly living on herbal teas. Things like I couldn't even drink squash honestly because everything tasted really weird.
Mm.
Um and then I also had to do something called, I think they call GSF injections. I might be saying it wrong, but they're basically to up your white blood cell count. So, because you get extremely neutropenic. So I never ever administered an injection before myself. So my my lovely partner had to like inject me in the stomach every day as well to up my white blood cell count, which is not. I really dreaded it. I used to do it like late in the afternoon because I put it off all day, and I just did not want to do it. And a result of like a side effect of that was severe bone pain, as well. So on top of being nauseous, extremely fatigued, couldn't walk down the stairs, really needed help with every single thing. Like my partner bathed me, she cooked me every single meal. I couldn't do anything. Like I just literally felt like I all I could do literally was lie down. I wasn't even really able to watch the TV properly either. I wasn't mentally there. Like my brain was really foggy. extremely shaky. Um, all I wanted was for it to pass. Um, what was sort of the duration of the first set of chemo? Um, I actually have the notes because I it was literally so long ago that I can't even remember um every single thing that I experienced. But some of them were obviously throwing up, no appetite. I'd feel this uncomfortable tingling all over my body. Um, and I'd be shaking, I'd be extremely weak. I'd be, especially in the first round of the Ecoptac, I'd experience really bad chest pain. And I don't know if that was sort of the chemo working at the tumors or like, I'm not sure what it was, but like I could feel it. Like I could feel this entire area. Um,
Wow.
so I'm not sure what that was, but I still feel sort of tugging, which I've been told by my hematologist is sort of the scar tissue, like the dead scar tissue that where you had your tumors. So I guess that's where it was working. I was having palpitations, couldn't sleep at night because I was on steroids as well. Like I would be really tired, but then when I'd sleep for a couple of hours, wake up at 2 o'clock, be up all night, then not be able to fall back asleep, maybe sleep a couple of hours. That was for months, like
Mm.
insomnia for months. Obviously had lost 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 all of my hair, which was really difficult for me as well. I found that I didn't think it would be as hard as I thought it would be, because I anyway had pretty short hair before that, and I haven't really like for me personally, I didn't attach a lot of
Mm.
importance to my hair. Generally, I haven't had long hair in a really long time, but I think seeing myself bald was really, really difficult. Because I really felt like I'd lost myself,
Yeah.
and I really felt like I couldn't recognize the person in the mirror. And then I think when I lost my eyebrows as well, on top of that, I just couldn't really like it was just very difficult. I didn't feel confident at all, and yeah, just I lost a lot of sort of that spark that I
Yeah.
had before.
It's
Um,
a very visceral reminder, isn't it, of what's happening? I think it's a very
yeah.
visceral visual aid of like seeing exactly the situation as it is.
Exactly. You can't pretend like it's not
Yeah.
happening, you know? It's like that's what it looks like. And I think even more than that, it was probably that it was a reminder of
Mm.
what was happening. I had cancer, I was a cancer patient, I was going through chemo, and this is my life right now, you know?
Did you during this period? Obviously, I mean, it sounds so traumatic and so intense. Was there any support available to you? Like, but because part of being so young, it's so isolating. Like when you're on the ward, I imagine you're surrounded by people that are so much older, and there's not a community feel there, is there? Sort of solidarity in numbers.
No, for me personally, not at all. But I think it was also where I had my treatment because I had treatment in London,
Mm.
whereas because I used to live in London, and then my partner, she and her family live in Luton. Uh, and so I moved in with them when I got diagnosed, but because it took me so long to get a date in for chemo, I didn't want to move all my treatment over, and then push it further.
Yeah.
So it made more sense they were amazing. Like they were really my support system. Drove me everywhere, drove me for my appointments, no matter what time of the night. I had to go to A&E, and there were a lot. Like every single, every I would say for my second round of the Ecopdac, I think I went to the like I went to A&E 3 times in the same week. Um,
Is this like
by
just picking up viruses and stuff?
viruses or severe pain,
Mm.
or I was throwing up so much that they basically give you this like sheet, and it says if you are having any of these symptoms to a severe extent, you have to go to A&E. Don't call like you can call us up, but that's where you have to be to check that you're okay. And because I felt like um, I lacked support from my CNS nurses, they wouldn't really pick up my calls on time or like they wouldn't respond to me. promptly. And a lot of these symptoms and a lot of these experiences were things I was having for the first time ever. I didn't know what to expect. And so I think it was because they were so overwhelmed with the number of people that they were dealing with. Obviously, being in London, being in a city, the level of care is very different. Um, I just think they couldn't cope with like the additional sort of, I guess I don't know how they divided their time really, but I felt like I didn't receive the support that I wanted. So a lot of the support I was getting and sort of like, if I had a symptom or if something was wrong, I would be Googling it or looking on TikTok or on social media and stuff like that because I wasn't getting immediate responses or I wasn't really getting responses that I felt like satisfied with. I was getting a lot of, oh, you need to push through, you need to just like, this is all normal. If you are feeling anything severely, go to A&E. And so I felt like I was written off a lot of the time, and that was why I went to A&E so many times as well. Maybe when I didn't need to. Actually, every single time I did need to because there was something wrong. Like I was one time it was because I passed out randomly because I couldn't stand and I had to be rushed
Yeah.
over because like that's not normal. And then another time I had fever and the bone pain was one time, and one of the times I ended up being admitted for a week and I couldn't get out because I went for bone pain, like from the injection and then they ended up finding out that I had an infection. So they kept me in. I had to have a blood transfusion. And that was just before my next PET scan as well, like sort of my interim PET scan. I was just focused on needing to get to that appointment for my PET scan because I wanted to know what had been going on. But going back to your question, during chemo, I didn't really receive a lot of sort of medical support, and I would have liked to have received more support on that front. I had a lot of support from my family and from people online. But I found what's funny is because I've recently changed my care to Bedfordshire, and now that I've changed it, the level of support that I'm getting is just night and day because I'm being allocated a Macmillan nurse who's absolutely phenomenal. She calls me every week. She signs me up for things. Like
Brilliant.
programs. She comes to my house to see how I'm doing. Um, Whenever, literally, she's really, really amazing. She put me in touch with the Macmillan financial sort of help team as well to help me see if I can get any benefits or any sort of financial support. I got a special day through the Willow Foundation through her because she signed me up for that. So she's been amazing. And every single thing I've been doing recovery based, whether that be physical or even like with a psychologist, uh, or even group recovery programs like the Hope course or like Look Good, Feel Better have all been because of her and because of that guidance. And even the CNS nurses at the Bedfordshire hospitals have been amazing. They call back when they say they're going to call back. No issue is too big or small. They've been. I wish I got that kind of support, but I think it depends on area. Some people are lucky, so it's not, I'm not saying it's everywhere. I'm just saying that the care that I got, although the treatment was correct and the hospital was amazing and the nurses there, they knew what they were doing. I think the empathy and sort of the human aspect was something that I lacked and I really am getting now in the remission recovery stage. But I didn't receive that before, which wasn't but
No.
I'm just grateful to be having it now.
Yeah, and this is something I see, and there's conversations all around at an organisational level about this, but it shouldn't be a postcode lottery, should it? You're literally an example of moving your postcode, improving your care, and the one thing that the clinical side can forget is actually the human element, which is so important. This individualized, holistic approach to a cancer patient, not a scalpel and medicine based approach to it. Yeah, it's so important. We obviously need to treat the body, but we also need to treat the human and treat the mind and treat the community aspect, and all of that needs to be so included. So I incredibly glad to hear that you are getting the care you needed, but obviously saddened to hear that you hadn't before, because it does make such a difference. And you're almost relying on that amazing human that usually works for an amazing charity to be that person that can advocate for you. Because when you're going through this, you don't have the time, the energy, or anything to give into advocating for yourself. You do need other people to do that for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I remember there was one time where I had really, really severe, like especially so I switched on to ABVD after Beacoctax. I did 2 cycles of Beacoctax, 2 cycles of ABVD. And when I switched on to ABVD, I thought, okay, great, this is gonna be a bit easier. Wasn't. It was as hard, like I was I'd probably say it was worse in a way because I was having all of so everything listed ABVD in on the same day. Whereas with Beer Cop Deck, like sort of spread out
Yeah.
through 4 days. Whereas I found that having everything on one day a lot more intense. So along with the severe nausea, throwing up, all of that, I was shaking a lot more. I wasn't really able to stand or carry myself out of the hospital. There were a couple of times where I had to be wheeled out because I couldn't stand.
Mm.
It was sort of the nurses weren't extremely concerned for my well-being. They were like, "Oh, why don't you just go to A&E?" But I was so really at the hospital, you know what I mean? But it was because the hospital I was at didn't have an A&E. They
Right.
it sort of had it was under like a branch of different types of hospitals, so you needed to go to a different one to go to A&E. Anyway, the point of the story is that when during ABVD, I developed extremely severe stomach pain, like absolutely, I couldn't. I was screaming at night because of how bad the pain was. And I usually have quite a high tolerance for pain. Um, and I took every single thing, like any kind of like I took a lot of gut health medication that my CNS nurse told me to try. And I was waiting on them to get back to me after speaking to the doctor to see if there's anything stronger I could take that
Mm.
could help. Um, I think I waited 3 days, because I didn't wanna rush to A&E because obviously risk of infection, you don't want to if it's not that
Yeah.
urgent, and especially if it's a quick fix, if there's something that they can give you that's going to solve that. And I was basically told, well, you're the first person you're the first patient who's ever complained about stomach pain like this. So it's not really common. So we don't really know what to do. So go to A&E, see. And this was my CNS nurse. I knew that wasn't true because I went on TikTok and social media, Googled it. A simple Google said a lot of people who are on my kind of chemo were experiencing this kind of pain.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I ended up having to go in to A&E, and they put me on morphine because it was the
Wow.
only thing that could solve the issue, but they didn't know where it was coming from. They thought it might have just been like a side effect with the chemo that I was having. But the difference between sort of that and waiting several days for me to get s- some kind of medication, something to make me feel better, compared to like now, if there's any issue, my Macmillan nurse
Yeah.
will prescribe it to me immediately. I started getting rashes a few weeks ago, so they think it's eczema. So I'm currently actually back in sort of the scanning stage. They don't think it's anything to worry about, but I have a CT scan tomorrow to just check that I'm still in remission, everything's fine.
How are you feeling about
But
that, by the way? Because that must be quite triggering for that phrase.
really struggled with worry of relapse. Like, I think out of everything, obviously for me, my mental health has been far worse since I've been in remission than it was while I was in chemo, because it's
So
my
interesting.
partner told me that, like, me in chemo was the calmest that she'd ever seen me be. So although I was extremely distraught and upset and really struggling on a physical level, and yeah, on a mental level, yes, this sucks that this is happening to me. Absolutely, you know what I mean? Like, I was just really upset that that was happening to me. But it felt justified. It felt like, okay, these are all normal things to be feeling. But but I was pretty calm. Whereas now, a lot of it is very rooted in anxiety, the anxiety of relapse. Is this pain here? Does that mean I'm relapsing? I'm like taking pictures of every single thing that appears on my body, you know? And yeah, I think that's been the hardest part of this whole recovery process, because in a way, I've been struggling to sort of kickstart my life back up, because I'm afraid of what's around the corner. I'm afraid of what I'm going to be told maybe next week. And I know it's not a great way to live, and I'm sure that over time that's something that will sort of die down or pass. But I think because I'm only 5 months,
Let's say.
it's like it's still very much within, so that 6 months, 1 year, 2 years sort of,
Yeah.
time frame where you sort of tick off, okay, this is how long I've been in remission for. And yeah, I definitely am finding this part very hard. Like, the people, I'm finding it hard to, socialize, to tell people how this whole experience was. How do you even, how, also because, I've lost my hair, I put on weight because of the steroid, you put on weight because suddenly you go from not eating anything to completely um to eating normally.
Mm.
Also my fitness level is completely different. And so I don't look like the person I went into being as, and so sort of, I don't know, accepting accepting me now, and um also being grateful for what my body went through, and
Mm.
the fact that it fought so hard for me to get better is really amazing. And I think balancing those two thoughts, so it was sort of like the devil and the angel on your shoulder, like, these are all of the things that you've done and that are amazing and that have been really hard and you got through it. But then on the other hand, it's like, oh, you're also trying to you know you're also trying to have some kind of routine, go back to um yeah, reality in a way. I mean, it's not reality. This was my reality, but like, um, yeah, just reintroducing yourself into life, or into normalcy,
Mm.
whatever that means. Alongside having scans and blood tests and seeing your doctor regularly and
Yeah.
having calls from your nurse, and that's, I think, understanding or getting used to this new sort of, yeah, this new system, or what life is going to look like for the next few months at least. So I am very nervous about tomorrow. I think I'm okay because my symptoms haven't gotten worse. So I'm assuming that it's probably just the changes that have happened to my body, with chemo, and sort of that the effects of it, really. But I'm grateful and glad to be getting checked, to be to be looked after, to make sure that anything that's happening is like you're in control of it immediately, not to leave anything to the last minute, So yeah. So let's see. Hopefully, I'm sure everything will be fine. And yeah, I'm gonna start work hopefully next month,
Real.
and that will help me with my routine as well. And pick up some more work as well towards the end of the year and maybe join a gym. And I'm trying to put all those pieces back slowly, but still be kind to myself.
I think that
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think that is the way to do it. Firstly, I think you're not alone in any of that, by the way. That whole, everything you just said, I was sitting here thinking, oh, that's going to resonate with so many people. It's the phrase everyone hates, but new normal, right? Isn't it? It's no one likes saying it, but there's not a better phrasing that we've come up with yet. But you've gone through so much in such an intense time, and then you come out the other side of it, and someone goes, "Oh, you're in remission," and you're like, "Okay," but nothing like I've got all of that, and I suppose you're in literal survival mode when you're going through it as well. Like that calm that your partner saw in you is just you're one singular focused, and then the world opens up to you, but the world's not the same as before because you're not the same. And before you weren't going for scans and still having checkups and still being contacted by your medical team, and then you've got to balance all of that. And I can imagine that, yeah, sometimes life is just a constant reminder of like, oh, where have you been? Oh, I haven't seen you in ages. Well, how do you small talk your way out of a cancer diagnosis? Like most people are like, oh yeah, I've been busy, job's good. I don't know, the dog's been ill or something. And you're like, okay, well, let me just brain dump on you for the last 6 months of my life. So yeah, and I think that gratitude and the anxiety are such big feelings, aren't they? I think that's part of it, wanting to be grateful and knowing what your body's gone through, but then the anxiety of thinking your body might let you down again is a huge roller coaster swing. And I think yeah, you're doing it right by taking it slow. I think just adding the pieces in. We've heard guests who have said, "Oh, I did everything. I tried climbing mountains and running marathons, and there's a big fall off on the other side." So
Yeah, slow and steady, definitely. I mean, for me, I'm just like I throw the C bomb. Like I'm just like, yeah, I had cancer. That's like the because because it's been a big part of my life, and it's been extremely difficult. And I think I'm not worried about making anybody else feel uncomfortable about what I have gone through because I'm the one who went through it. You know what I mean? So, um, I'm pretty open. If someone's like, "Oh, where have you been?" I'm like, "I had cancer and it sucked." Um, and now I'm just trying to recover and see what's next.
that's brilliant. And I'm glad you've got that support from your medical team to hopefully help you
Yeah.
through this period of recovery. Is there anything they've done? I mean, you've talked about quite a lot of it, but is there any side effects we haven't actually really talked about you going into remission, actually. Do you want to, I'm just conscious of time. Do you want to sort of cover how that happened and how, that, like what the process was going through that, and then sort of any side
Oh,
effects that you've identified or, the community are talking about, but maybe isn't well known?
yeah, of course. So, well, I kind of found out I was in remission. Like I mentioned before, when I was in hospital, for the bone pain, and then I developed like an infection. So I was in there for a week. They had to do an X-ray, and I was in A&E, and the doctor comes in and goes, "Oh, we had a look at your X-ray, and we just want to tell you that we compared it to your previous X-ray a few months ago, and um no, it wasn't even a few months ago. It was so in September, and I had this second X-ray in December, and they said there's barely any sort of mass there from what we can
Wow.
see. And I broke down crying in A&E. I just couldn't believe it because my PET scan was a week after. So I had no idea whether, my chemo was working, what was happening. Because it can go either way, you don't know if it is
Yeah.
effective for you. Um, and then I had my PET scan. I was still quite worried, but I thought, okay, it's a good sign that the X-ray came back looking better. And I went in literally in December, um, just before I started ABVD, and my doctor said, "You're in complete metabolic response. There's no cancer detected. You're, you don't have any more. There's nothing there."
Wow.
So it, but what was crazy, Toby, was I counted, and it took 6 weeks for that to happen. But obviously, and this was with 2 rounds of beer cocktail. Obviously, you still need to complete the course. So I still had 4 more rounds of ABVD, so 2 cycles of ABVD left. So he said, "This is amazing news. This is exactly what we want happening at this stage. You start ABVD this week, um, and you have 4 more sessions. So that's what it's going to look
Yeah.
like." Um, So obviously there's a lot of anxiety from then on still. It's like it's great news that, I was in remission. I was completely clear in, complete metabolic response. But there's always a worry of it not working after that, you always need to check after that. So I had my next scan in March, and yeah, it was again the same thing, completely clear, which was really great. So I that was a huge relief for me. But I think for me in my head, like it was December,
Mm.
December, January, that was the point that I could sort of breathe a little bit better. And in a way, I was a horse with blinders where I just needed to focus on getting through these next few rounds. Um, and I'm hoping that the result would be the same,
Yeah.
and then I could finally move on from all of this. In terms of the side effects, I've had a lot. Like it's been really it I'd say almost the same amount of side effects I had while I was on chemo, just the
Mm.
post remission recovery post chemo side effects have been continuous. So for one, menopause has been awful. I can't body regulate, like my body temperature can't regulate. It's a lot better now, but this is 5 months out. But especially at the start, I couldn't, like in the winter, I was sleeping with the window open because I was hot all the time, couldn't sleep. The insomnia was really bad. I was having really terrible nightmares night after night after night. I was waking up feeling exhausted. I'm not sure whether the nightmares were um because of chemo or the medicines I was taking or the steroids or because of just anxiety in general. Um but wait, I have a list still. And then also I experienced neuropathy quite bad, so mostly in my fingertips.
Mm.
Um, and so I was using a lot of stress balls for that, but it is a bit better. But I still have a little bit of neuropathy, and I have a feeling that that's something that will stay with me for,
It's nerve damage, isn't it, from the chemotherapy? Yeah.
which is, yeah, it's nerve damage in your fingertips, which isn't great because I'm a photographer.
And an
And
artist, yeah. Yeah.
And I work a lot with film and loading film and printing in the dark room,
Mm.
literally clicking a camera. So it's I'm not too happy about that as a side effect,
Yeah.
but it's a lot better than it was, a few months ago. So what I've been told is after a year, if you're still experiencing some of it, it's sort of what you're left with.
Right.
Uh, but hopefully within the year it will get better.
Yeah.
Um, and then I experienced a lot of just, yeah, general nerve pain. So where I had my PIC line in my arm, my whole sort of my nerve was in a lot of pain for quite a few months as well. I'm not sure what that was because I had pain, like that was one reason why I went to A&E as
Mm.
well. I was having a lot of issues with my PIC line. So a lot of sensitivity there. muscle pain. Like it's crazy because I felt like I felt like I was 90 years old. Every time I'd stand up, I would sort of be hunched and have to adjust myself really slowly because I'd have back pain or thigh pain or some kind of muscle ache, and it was all the time. I could have been sitting for 5 minutes, for an hour, and I was just that's also sort of died down a little bit. I still have pain here and there, but from March to now, it's it's gotten better and better and better. And if you told me that in March, I wouldn't have believed you. Um, but yeah, and then I think the biggest one for me is skin sensitivity and just itchiness, like constantly. And that was a big symptom for me. So
Yeah.
I think mentally, it's taken the biggest toll.
Mm.
Uh, on just like me feeling like I'm still in remission. Am I still in remission?
Yeah.
Because I had so much skin sensitivity, rashes, itching, pre-diagnosis, which got a bit better during chemo. But then when I started ABVD, started experiencing that again. It's like itchiness on my legs, like I have scarring all over as well. And then again, like I said, like the knuckle itchiness,
Yeah.
that just sort of general itchiness, that's a big thing for me that I've experienced. And lastly is something called, I think it's called like chemo induced like skin it's sort of some kind of skin sensitivity. I'm not sure if you can see, but sort of these streaks, like all like these dark sort of brown streaks. Um it's 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 some kind of skin sensitivity in reaction to the chemo. That could stay permanently, could fade away. I don't know, but I have them like all over. You can see sort of this line on my
Yeah.
so I have them all over my body, and I was told by my hematologist that some people can develop these skin streaks from chemo. So that's one thing that I'm left with as well. So um yeah, other than just having to rebuild your health like every
Apart from that,
it's
yeah.
apart from that, apart from feeling like a regular normal human being.
Yes.
Yeah. But
It's a lot
yeah.
to be dealing with on a ongoing basis, isn't it? But as you say, hopefully over this next few months up to the year, they will start to alleviate. I just wanted to ask before we sort of surmise and bring onto our questions that we always ask all our guests. You've mentioned a few, but is there any organisations that are really helping you or have helped you that you really want to just talk about and just shout them out? Because we always try, if there's anyone listening, we'd love them to be able to find these organisations as well, because it's all about helping the community.
Absolutely. So obviously Macmillan with my nurse, she has been amazing. And through Macmillan, they sort of have different initiatives that they've set up. So um Look Good, Feel Better was is really good. It's a 2 hour course. They do one for men and one for women as well. It's all about confidence and building your confidence. And it's sort of like a skincare and makeup workshop where they give you a little goodie bag and they talk you through different steps of like maybe how to do your eyebrows after you've lost them, or how to use different or what kind of cream you might want to use if your skin's on the dry side. It's really lovely, wholesome. Another one is the Hope course. It's sort of like a group course over 6 weeks. And each week it's 2 hours and they focus on different aspects. So one week could be healthy eating, another week could be body confidence. Another week could be intimacy, or support systems in your life. Another week could be fear of relapse and sitting in a group environment and listening to other people's stories is also a nice support.
Yeah.
And you receive you receive support, but also can offer it if you're in a position to do so. Um, a one charity who have been absolutely amazing have been the Willow Foundation for me. my nurse referred me for it. And they organize special days for young adults. It could be anything. It could be a night away, a special day. So it could be a theme park or a nice meal or anything. So I picked to go for a spa day. And they were so lovely. I was supposed to go with my partner initially, but they took both of they let they yeah they took care of both of us and her parents who'd
Oh, wow.
taken care of me throughout. So the four of us got a really nice hotel stay, and and just got to spend some time together in a nice place. And yeah, that I'm really grateful
That
to
is
Willow.
amazing.
And on top of that, yeah, they're really, really amazing. And on top of that, they sent me like a little gift basket with a few things to help me with, like creams, things that could help me again with with sort of the
Yeah.
skin sensitivity stuff. So they've been amazing. And then the last charity is something to look forward to, who are also great. I think they do something similar where they do special days or meals or stays for seriously ill adults.
Mm.
And what's nice about them is that you can apply 1 year after your treatment, so it's any
Nice.
time.
Yeah.
Whereas Willow have more of a time constraint. You have to be a few weeks outside after your chemo or whatever treatment you've had. But something to look forward to, sort of a longer time piece of people who maybe didn't apply for that, and are looking for something that they'd like to pick specifically. So it could be like a gift voucher
Mm.
to a restaurant or um, anything like a comedy show, like tickets to a comedy show. They have everything that they have to offer listed, so you can
Brilliant.
pick what you like. Um, and yeah, they're amazing as well. So I always shout out them three. So
Oh, they'll
yeah.
be busy after.
Huge list.
Yeah, love it. Well, hopefully they get inundated with people who they can help, because that sounds absolutely incredible. Amazing organisations. I've made a note to get in touch with those as well, because I'm sure our community at the Robin Cancer Trust could benefit from that. So
Absolutely.
well, thank you. I mean, I say this every episode, could talk all day, but I think we have covered the depth and breadth of it, and I'm so, so grateful. Before we go, we do these quick fire questions, though. We do these for all of our guests. So I'm just going to dive into them and put you on the spot because you haven't had these. So, what advice would you give to someone who's worried they might have cancer?
Um, Advocate for yourself. Go to your GP. You are not annoying. Just keep pestering them until you feel like you've gotten the response you want. Or until you feel like you've been given the time. But you have to advocate for yourself because I did, and a lot of the time people go undiagnosed for so many months. Um, and you don't want it to get any worse than it has, that it already is. If it is cancer, great. If it isn't, but then at least you've checked.
Absolutely. That is great advice. What's the most impactful thing someone did for you after your diagnosis?
My partner, so yeah, my partner set up a GoFundMe for me because obviously I'm a
Mm.
freelancer, so I don't have the ability to work, to shoot anything or to photograph, um, especially during chemo. But even now, while I build up my strength, and I don't have the same level of fitness that I did to take on jobs. So the support from our community and our friends and family towards my GoFundMe was really, really amazing. Like I couldn't have survived the last few months and even currently without having that financial support. And even as an immigrant, I'm not entitled to benefits like universal credit. So also I was entitled to PIP, but it takes so many months to even to apply for it, to even be approved or anything like that. So for having that financial stability, especially when you are a freelancer, you don't have those finances, was something that am really, really grateful for, because I was not in a position to be able to set one up for myself. So
That's
that is,
absolutely,
yeah, that's been a big
absolutely
thing.
incredible. Love that. Um, what's the worst thing someone has said to you about having cancer?
Oh God. Don't even know. Um,
Hopefully nothing, but usually someone says something untoward.
I honestly, nothing I can remember. Pardon?
That's great. I'm happy with that. that's that's what we
Yeah,
want to hear.
it's really nice. So, I mean, I don't really think you can say anything mean about, yeah. I not the good thing is I obviously can't remember it if somebody has told me something. So it's not like it went in. So that's okay.
Brilliant. Glad to hear it. Keep that energy up. Um, what advice would you give to someone recently diagnosed with cancer?
Um, I know it's really scary. Um, and it's a really, really hard process, especially through treatment, but there is an end. Um, or it's important to make sure you're doing every single thing in your power in order to get better, to um get to a stage where you can be on some kind of maintenance, because it's a question of life or death essentially. So things are going to be okay. And make sure that you don't push yourself, and you do things in your own time, um according to your own comfort, and you don't need to respond to anybody. If you don't feel like it, you don't need to sort of present yourself any other way. You're allowed to cry, you're allowed to be sad about your news, you can be however you want to be, because anyways is right. Like, it's an extremely difficult situation to be in, but you will be okay.
Love that. Thank you for sharing that. And lastly, what's the biggest lesson you've learned from having cancer?
My body is stronger than I thought it was. Like, I think that my body really did something amazing, and I'm very grateful for it. And I think that I need to be kinder to myself. And yeah, just to be kinder to myself and appreciate what I have and what I may, and appreciate even small things like going out for a meal, because I couldn't do that while I was going through chemo. Um, or being able to run, like, for a couple of minutes, or um run for the bus even, so just grateful for my body, and everything that everything that it's been through, and still that it's powering on.
Brilliant. What an amazing way to end the podcast and surmise your insights coming out of everything that you've been through. I just want to take a moment to thank you for being here with us, for sharing your story and your journey so openly, so candidly. I don't think you've left anything on the table. And I know that will be helping so many people through either being concerned about cancer, going through their own treatment, and coming out the other side. And obviously, we wish you all the best for tomorrow and
Thank you.
onwards in your journey. And I hope you find a community here with the Thrive Against Cancer podcast. And the one thing I always forget up until this point is, if you could quickly tell people where to find you, that would be lovely. But you've talked a lot about isolation through various journeys, from trying to get diagnosed, through being diagnosed, and then your treatment, and just sharing your journey with so many people will help them feel less isolated. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, because I think that's an amazing thing you've done for other people. So thank you. And where can people find you?
Thank you so much. So you can find me on Instagram, at AHLIA, or on TikTok at Kitchen Queen. But you'll probably write it somewhere because the spelling is, I can't even remember the spelling.
We'll make sure it's written in the bio, so that's absolutely fine. Alia, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing, and we will speak to you soon, I have no doubt. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a review and follow us on social media at Thrive Against Cancer. And be sure to check out our other episodes wherever you listen to your podcasts and on YouTube. If you want to help support our mission to give a voice to the cancer community, please contact us or visit our website to learn more at thriveagainstcancer.co.uk.